This is a wooden surfboard blank made from agave, which is the same plant family as tequila and mezcal. It's come all the way from Kenya, from a company called Grow Blanks, and it's the waste product from this particular plant which they use. With an amazing variety of colours and fibrous tube-like structures, it's the closest thing to natural foam there is. Being a natural product, it has slightly different densities, so it's going to be quite an interesting one to shape. Unlike traditional polyurethane foam blanks, these are flat on the deck, just like a block cut EPS blank, meaning we need to dome the deck ourselves, as well as take out considerable thickness in the nose and tail. My electric planer is equipped with a grip barrel, which seemed to make light work of the cuts, while leaving a fairly clean finish. The whole board is made from squared beams of agave, with the predetermined rocker pre-cut. However, this does mean there is no easily identifiable midpoint. Before we begin, we need to mark our string line, so we can mark our wide points. We're shaping a 5/8 fish, which is 20.5 wide and 2 5/8 thick. It's at this stage where you want to stand the board up and have a good look at the outline, as there's no going back once you've cut it, unless of course you want to make the board smaller. If you've watched my other video, you probably saw me show a range of different tools to cut the outlines, but the one I like the best is the jigsaw, especially for wood. I cut to the nose and tail from the middle of the board on both sides. Jigsaw blades, especially longer ones, can wander, causing angled cuts. This eliminates the risk of cutting into your outline on the other side of the board. Now the outline is cut, we can take out the thickness, which includes doming the deck, putting in our bottom contours, and altering the rocker. I'm taking rocker measurements from the nose and the tail, and a thickness measurement, just to calculate exactly what I need to take off, and in what areas. This is a traditional fish shape, so I thought I'd give it a beak nose, which, unlike the really thinned out modern noses, is a slightly thicker option, hiding additional volume in the board. I think they also look quite nice too, especially on fishes. I'm using a couple of different tools to do that. I've got two rasps. One is coarse and one is much finer. I like to cut the angle of the nose in using one of these rasps and then use an electric planer to blend the rail bands in. That way, you know you're not going to lose the shape. Just using a brick covered in masking tape here to help hold everything down and working through the bands to get a nice transition from the deck to the apex of the rail. At this stage, I had to switch to the full face mask because I was about to create a lot of dust. Although this is a natural product, you certainly don't want to be breathing this in. Using a power sander, I quickly made light work of the deck and smoothed out all the rail bands. This board is getting a set of glass-on wool keels, which you'll see a little bit later on. It's important at this stage that I mark out where those fins are going to go. Taking a measurement from the back of the board, I'll mark out the rear of the fin. Then using a speed square, I can mark out the front of the fin as well. Different fins have different measurements, such as distance from the rail, toe in, which is how far they point towards the nose, and cant, which is the angle of the fin relative to the bottom of the board. All of these can have a big impact on how the board surfs, and different fin setups can drastically change how a board performs. This is ideally what you want to see when you've shaped your rails. Nice, neat bands linking the bottom to the deck of your board. The last thing we need to do is to clean up the swallowtail, and we can do that using a few hand tools, including angled and round rasps, the vintage shore form from before, a Japanese Shinto rasp to do some heavy material removal, and soft sanding pads for the finer details. Despite using a grit barrel and taking great care working up through the grit, there's still plenty of imperfections due to the natural properties of this material. So just before laminating, we need to fill those and seal the wood. If we were to just laminate straight away, we would likely have big problems with off-gassing, depending on the changing air temperature. This wood is light, meaning it's got lots of air in it. If the air temperature was rising, that would cause any laminate on the surface to trap air bubbles between the wood and the laminate. To seal it, I'm just using bio-epoxy resin mixed with milled hemp fibers. This wood is already very strong, so it doesn't require heavy glass reinforcement. I did notice a few soft patches on the deck, so I thought a single layer of 4-ounce fiberglass cloth on the bottom and a double layer on the deck would be sufficient. You might have seen people aggressively working resins into fiberglass cloth building other surfboards. This does not work well with epoxy resin. It's really important not to move the material around too fast or move it too far along the board, as this can cause froth and bubbles, which can be very visible, especially with tinted resins. The best approach is to let the resin do the work for you, saturating the cloth before pulling it out to the rails to wet out the laps. These are keel fins made from bioresin and sheep's wool. They have a little more flex than traditional fiberglass fins, but will stiffen up after they are glassed onto the fish. I recently started this brand, Hold. We make fins from recycled materials, including synthetic waste like fiberglass, carbon and basalt collected from the surfboard manufacturing industry, as well as natural fibres like sheep's wool, jute and hemp. In order to attach them to the board, the tabs need to be cut off and the bases sanded. It's also important to rough up the surface so we get a great mechanical bond between the fin and the resin. I cut this piece of wood, which is at the same width and angle as the markings that I did earlier on the board. This will help me set the correct fin position, but also the fin cant of 2 degrees, which is the angle in relation to the bottom. To attach the fins, a small amount of resin is used to tack them on and make sure they're in the right place, using masking tape to help hold them until they reach full cure. Fiberglass rovings are then used to create filleted corners at the base of both sides of the fin. I just made my own using scrap fiberglass cloth. Then comes the actual reinforcement, which is 3 layers of 6-ounce fiberglass cloth patches, staggered on each side. Again, I use scrap cloth for this. The patches are staggered to help with the flex pattern, but also to ensure a smooth transition once the board is sanded. Next up is the deck lamination. So I've taped off the bottom and glassed 2 layers of fiberglass, one to the rail apex and another going all the way to fold underneath over our tape line. While laminating, I did notice that I was getting quite a few large air bubbles appearing where air was escaping from the wood. It was a particularly hot day when I was doing this, and perhaps I didn't seal the blank as well as I needed to. To mitigate this, I ended up taking a screwdriver and razor blade and stabbing a hole where the leash plug is going to go. This allowed air to escape through it rather than get trapped between the laminate and the wood. To keep things in a similar aesthetic, I wanted to make a leash plug out of some scrap bog oak that I had on the shelf. I used a Forstner bit to drill a hole and installed a steel pin to hold the leash string. This will be just as strong, if not stronger, than the plastic leash plugs that you can buy. Because of its one-off size, I just free-handed the hole with a router, and to match the wood, I used a bit of agave sanding dust and bioresin to make the paste that will bind the plug to the board. Finally, we are at the last stage, and all we need to do now is sign the dimensions and give it a final gloss coat. This thin coat of resin is then sanded from 180 grit all the way up to 800 grit wet to give it a nice matte finish. All done. A solid agave core with glass wool keel fins. 5'8" long, 20.5 inches wide, and 2 5/8 inches thick. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. If you haven't already seen my other video, go and check that out now. And if you want to support me and also do some good for the planet, please do go and grab a recycled fin from this website, holdfin.co. Worldwide shipping is available. Thanks for watching.